Have you ever wondered what it would be like to walk alongside someone whose faith could move mountains? To witness firsthand the moments that shaped a legacy spanning thousands of years? Today, we're going to take an extraordinary journey together. We're going to step into the sandals of history and experience what it truly meant to walk with one of the most remarkable figures who ever lived. But here's the thing that most people don't understand about this incredible story. This isn't just about ancient history or religious tales. This is about discovering timeless principles that can transform your own life today. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why millions of people across centuries have found strength, courage, and purpose through this one person's example. And trust me, once you see what I'm about to show you, you'll never look at challenges the same way again. My name is here to guide you through this adventure, and I've spent years studying the most inspiring stories in human history. What we're about to explore together isn't just another biography. This is a masterclass in resilience, leadership, and unwavering faith that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about what's possible in your own life. So let me ask you this. When you think about the greatest leaders, warriors, and visionaries throughout history, what qualities do they share? Courage? Absolutely. Intelligence? Definitely. But there's something deeper, something that separates the truly legendary figures from everyone else. And that something is exactly what we're going to discover today. Picture this scene with me for a moment. The sun is beating down mercilessly on the dusty hills of ancient Palestine. The air is thick with tension as two armies face each other across a narrow valley. On one side, you have seasoned warriors, battle-tested and fierce. On the other side stands a collection of farmers, shepherds, and ordinary men who've been called to fight for their homeland. But there's something unusual happening here. Instead of the clash of armies, there's an eerie silence. Both sides are waiting, watching, listening to the thunderous footsteps of a single figure making his way toward the center of the battlefield. This is where our journey begins, not with the ending of the story, but right here in this moment of impossible odds. Because what happens next will change everything, not just for the people witnessing it, but for countless generations who would hear this story and find courage in their own impossible moments. Now, you might be thinking, you know how this story goes. You might have heard it in Sunday school or seen it depicted in movies. But I promise you, what you're about to experience is different. We're not just going to observe from a distance. We're going to walk step by step through each moment, feeling the dust beneath our feet, hearing the whispers of doubt and fear, and witnessing the birth of a legend. The first thing you need to understand about this journey is that it doesn't begin where you'd expect. It doesn't start in a palace or a prestigious military academy. It starts in the most humble of places, with the most ordinary of beginnings. And that's exactly what makes this story so powerful. Imagine walking through rolling green hills dotted with sheep. The morning mist is just beginning to lift, revealing the quiet beauty of the countryside. There's a young man here, barely more than a boy, tending to his father's flock. His hands are calloused from work, his face tanned from long days under the sun. To anyone passing by, he would seem completely unremarkable. But here's what they couldn't see. Here's what makes this moment extraordinary. This young shepherd possesses something that can't be measured by appearance or social status. He carries within him a combination of qualities that will soon shake the foundations of nations and inspire people across millennia. As we walk alongside him through these quiet fields, we begin to notice things that others miss. The way he moves with quiet confidence, the gentle authority in his voice as he calls to the sheep, the fearless determinations in his eyes when a predator threatens his flock. These aren't just the traits of a good shepherd. These are the early signs of something much greater. You see, while everyone else saw just another shepherd boy, destiny was already at work. Every challenge he faced in these fields, every moment of solitude under the stars, every test of courage against wild beasts was preparing him for something unprecedented. But he didn't know it yet, and neither did anyone else. This is where the story gets fascinating, because what happens next teaches us something profound about how greatness actually develops. It's not born in boardrooms or carved out through political connections. It's forged in the quiet moments when nobody's watching. It's built through faithfulness in small things, courage in everyday challenges, and character developed far from the spotlight. The transformation doesn't happen overnight. There's no sudden flash of lightning or dramatic revelation. Instead, it's a gradual process of growth, testing, and preparation that most people never see. But we're going to see it all. We're going to walk through every step of this incredible journey. Picture yourself standing in those ancient fields now. Feel the cool morning breeze, carrying the sounds of sheep calling to their shepherd. Watch as this young man demonstrates qualities that will soon be tested on a scale he could never imagine. The same hands that gently guide sheep will soon wield weapons of war. The same voice that calls softly to his flock will soon inspire armies and comfort nations. But before any of that happens, before the battles and the victories and the crown, there's this moment. This quiet, seemingly insignificant moment when a shepherd boy tends his flock and dreams of things beyond the horizon. This is where legends are born, not in the grand moments that history remembers, but in the faithful completion of humble tasks that nobody celebrates. As we continue walking with him, we start to understand something crucial about the nature of preparation. You can't rush it. You can't skip steps. Every skill he's developing here in these fields, every character trait being forged through daily challenges, every moment of trust being built through faithful service will become essential for what lies ahead. The sheep don't know they're being protected by someone destined for greatness. The hills don't echo with prophecies of future victories. Everything appears perfectly ordinary, but beneath the surface, something extraordinary is taking shape. A foundation is being laid that will support achievements beyond imagination. This is the first lesson of our journey together. Greatness isn't about starting with advantages or being born into privilege. It's about what you do with whatever circumstances you find yourself in. It's about faithfulness when no one's watching, courage when the stakes seem small, and integrity when there's no immediate reward. Watch how he moves among the flock. Notice the care he takes to ensure no sheep is left behind. See how he positions himself between potential danger and those under his protection. These aren't just the actions of a good shepherd. These are the early expressions of leadership principles that will soon govern a nation. The sun climbs higher now, and our shepherd leads his flock to fresh pasture. But as we walk with him, we begin to sense that something is stirring. Change is coming. The quiet season of preparation is drawing to a close, and the stage is being set for events that will echo through history. We can't see it yet, but messengers are already traveling the dusty roads toward this peaceful valley. Plans are being made in distant places that will soon disrupt this tranquil scene. The boy walking beside us has no idea that his name is about to be called for purposes far greater than anything he's ever imagined. This is the beauty of this journey we're taking together. We get to witness the moments before everything changes. We get to see the calm before the storm, the preparation before the test, the ordinary moments that precede the extraordinary ones. As we continue walking through these sun-drenched fields, listening to the gentle sounds of the flock and feeling the peace of this rural setting, remember this moment, because what happens next will transform not only this young shepherd's life, but the entire course of human history. The quiet faithfulness we're witnessing now is about to be tested in ways no one could predict. The stillness is about to be shattered in the most unexpected way. But before we witness that moment, we need to understand something crucial about the world our shepherd inhabits. This isn't just a story about one person's journey. It's about the collision of destiny with ordinary life and how that collision creates ripple effects that last forever. Let me paint the broader picture for you. While our shepherd tends his flock in these peaceful valleys, the political landscape around him is churning with tension and uncertainty. Nations are positioning themselves for conflict. Leaders are making decisions that will affect countless lives, and somewhere in the machinery of fate, wheels are turning that will soon pull this humble shepherd into the very center of it all. But here's what makes this so remarkable. He has no idea what's coming. None of us do when our moment arrives. That's the raw truth about how life really works. We're all just tending our sheep, doing our daily work, living our ordinary lives, when suddenly everything changes. The difference between those who rise to meet their moment and those who shrink from it lies in what they've been building during the quiet seasons. As we walk deeper into this story, you'll start to notice patterns that repeat throughout history. The same principles that are about to unfold in these ancient hills show up in every great story of transformation you've ever heard. From the farm boy who becomes president to the immigrant who builds an empire, from the dropout who revolutionizes technology to the unknown artist who changes culture forever. The morning sun climbs higher, casting longer shadows across the landscape. Our shepherd moves with practiced ease among his flock, unaware that miles away, a conversation is taking place that will change his prophet is receiving life forever. Instructions. A father is being prepared for news he never expected. The machinery is where the story of destiny is grinding into motion. This becomes deeply personal for all of us, because we've all been there, haven't we? Going about our daily routines, focused on our immediate responsibilities, completely unaware that life is about to take a dramatic turn. The phone call that changes everything, the opportunity that appears from nowhere, the challenge that seems impossible but somehow becomes the making of us. Watch our shepherd as he guides his flock toward water. Notice how naturally He assumes responsibility for their welfare. See how he scans the horizon for threats they can't even perceive. This isn't just good shepherding technique. This is leadership being forged in the crucible of daily responsibility. Every decision he makes here, every challenge he faces, every moment of courage he demonstrates is building the foundation for what's coming. The water reflects the cloudless sky as the sheep drink deeply. It's a moment of perfect peace, but if you know what to look for, you can sense the electricity in the air. Change is coming like a storm on the horizon, and nothing will ever be the same again. Here's what I want you to understand as we stand here watching this scene unfold. The moments that define us rarely come with advance warning. They don't announce themselves with fanfare or give us time to prepare. They arrive disguised as ordinary days, presenting themselves as routine challenges, masquerading as coincidences that turn out to be anything but coincidental. Our shepherd doesn't know it yet, but today is one of those days. Today, messengers are traveling roads that lead to his door. Today, conversations are happening in places of power that will soon reach into this quiet valley. Today, the course of history is about to pivot on the actions of a boy whose greatest concern right now is making sure his sheep have enough to eat. This is the paradox of greatness. It's often born not in the moments we think matter most, but in the moments we barely notice at all. The quiet faithfulness, the unseen integrity, the private courage that nobody applauds. These are the raw materials from which legends are constructed. As we continue our walk, I want you to pay attention to something subtle but profound. Watch how our shepherd interacts with his environment. He doesn't just occupy this space, he belongs to it. He understands the rhythms of the land, the needs of his flock, the patterns of weather and season. This deep connection to his world is about to become one of his greatest strengths. You see, when the extraordinary moments arrive, they don't require us to become completely different people. They require us to become more fully who we already are. The qualities that make our shepherd excellent at tending sheep are the same qualities that will make him extraordinary at everything else he's called to do. The scale changes, but the character remains consistent. The afternoon begins to settle over the hills, painting everything in golden light. It's the kind of moment that feels eternal, as if time itself has paused to appreciate the simple beauty of the scene. But beneath this surface tranquility, anticipation builds, not just in our story, but in the very fabric of history itself. This is when things get interesting, because what happens next challenges everything we think we know about how life works. We live in a world that worships credentials and pedigrees, that assumes the most qualified person gets chosen for the most important roles. But that's not how this story unfolds. That's not how any of the great stories unfold. Instead, we're about to witness something that defies conventional wisdom and conventional logic. We're about to see how the last becomes first, how the unlikely becomes inevitable, how the overlooked becomes indispensable. And it all begins with a knock on a door that our shepherd boy can't even hear yet. The flock begins to settle for the evening, finding their familiar resting places among the rocks and grass. Our shepherd counts them carefully, making sure each one is accounted for, each one is safe. It's a ritual he's performed thousands of times, but tonight it carries extra significance. Tonight, it might be one of the last times he performs this simple duty as an unknown shepherd boy. Tomorrow, everything changes. Tomorrow, the world discovers what we've been witnessing all along. Tomorrow, the preparation phase ends and the testing phase begins. Tomorrow, a shepherd becomes something more, and history holds its breath to see what he'll do with the opportunity. But that's tomorrow. Right now, we're still in this golden moment of before. Before the call comes, before the choice must be made, before the world shifts on its axis and nothing is ever the same again. This is the moment to savor the calm before the storm, the last breath before the dive into destiny. As darkness begins to creep across the hills and the first stars appear overhead, our shepherd settles in for what he believes will be just another ordinary night. The sheep are safe, the day's work is done, and tomorrow promises to be much like today. Except it won't be. Tomorrow will be the beginning of everything. And as our shepherd drifts off to sleep under that canopy of ancient stars, somewhere in the distance, footsteps are already making their way toward his father's house. Heavy, purposeful footsteps that carry with them the weight of divine appointment. The messenger doesn't know it yet, but he's walking toward a moment that will split history in two, before and after. Everything that came before this moment, and everything that will flow from it. But let's pause here for a second, because I want you to understand something crucial about what we're witnessing. This isn't just about one person's extraordinary journey. This is about how transformation actually works in real life. How ordinary people get thrust into extraordinary circumstances and either rise to meet the moment or crumble under the pressure. Think about your own life for a moment. Right now, as you're listening to this, there are forces at work that you can't see, opportunities being prepared, challenges being arranged, connections being formed. And just like our shepherd sleeping peacefully in the hills, you have no idea what tomorrow might bring. That's both terrifying and exhilarating, isn't it? The morning comes earlier than expected. The knock on the door arrives while the household is still rubbing sleep from their eyes. Our shepherd's father, a weathered man with calloused hands and a kind heart, opens the door to find a figure he never expected to see standing on his threshold. This is the moment when the ordinary world collides with the extraordinary purpose. Can you imagine the shock, the confusion? One moment you're living your predictable life, following your familiar routines, and the next moment someone is standing at your door telling you that everything is about to change. That your youngest son, the one you barely think about because he's always off with the sheep, has been chosen for something beyond your wildest imagination. But here's where the story takes an interesting turn, because the first reaction isn't celebration, it's skepticism, it's doubt. It's the very human tendency to look at what we know and assume that's all there is to know. The older brothers are brought forward first, the obvious choices, the ones who look the part, who have the resume, who fit the profile of what everyone expects greatness to look like. Walk with me through this moment of rejection after rejection. Watch as each brother is examined and found lacking, not because they aren't good men, but because they aren't the right man for this particular moment in history. There's something almost painful about witnessing this scene, the anticipation building, the mystery deepening, the growing realization that none of the obvious candidates are the chosen one. And then comes the question that changes everything. The question that reveals how little we really understand about how destiny works. Is there anyone else? Any other sons? The question hangs in the air like morning mist, heavy with possibility and pregnant with purpose. Oh, yes, there's one more, the youngest, but he's just out with the sheep, nothing important, nothing worth interrupting. Just the boy who tends the flock while the real men handle the real business of life. The afterthought, the one who gets mentioned last because he's considered least. This is the moment that should make all of us sit up and pay attention, because this is how breakthrough actually happens in real life. Not with the people everyone expects, not with the obvious choices, not with those who have all the advantages and credentials, but with the overlooked, the underestimated, the ones who've been faithfully doing their work in the shadows while everyone else was positioning themselves in the spotlight. The message goes out to the fields. Come quickly, bring the boy. And somewhere in those rolling hills, our shepherd receives the call that will forever alter the trajectory of his existence. But notice this. He doesn't know what the call is about. He doesn't have time to prepare a speech or rehearse his responses. He just has to trust and obey and show up as exactly who he's always been. Picture him now, jogging back toward the house, dust kicking up behind his sandals, his mind probably racing with possibilities. Did something happen to his father? Is there trouble with the neighbors? Is someone sick? The last thing he's expecting is to walk into a moment that will echo through eternity. But that's exactly what's waiting for him. As he approaches his family's humble dwelling, he can see the unusual activity, the important visitor, the serious faces of his brothers, the nervous energy of his parents. Something significant is happening, and somehow, impossibly, it involves him. This is where we need to understand something profound about how life actually works. The moments that matter most often come disguised as ordinary interruptions. They don't announce themselves with fanfare. They don't give us time to get ready. They simply arrive and demand a response. The question isn't whether you're prepared. The question is whether you'll say yes when the moment comes. Our shepherd steps through the doorway, and everything stops. The visitor's eyes lock onto his face, and in that instant, recognition flashes between them. Not the recognition of having met before, but the deeper recognition of destiny meeting preparation. The moment when purpose encounters the person who's been shaped to fulfill it. What happens next defies every human expectation and assumption. The youngest becomes the chosen, the shepherd becomes the anointed, the afterthought becomes the centerpiece of history. Oil is poured, words are spoken, and the impossible becomes inevitable. But here's what I find absolutely fascinating about this moment. Nothing changes immediately. There are no fireworks, no sudden transformation, no dramatic shift in appearance or circumstances. Our shepherd looks exactly the same as he did moments before. The only difference is internal, invisible, but absolutely revolutionary. This teaches us something crucial about how real change happens. The most significant transformations often begin with internal shifts that nobody else can see. Seeds planted in the heart that won't bear visible fruit for months or even years. Appointments made in the spiritual realm that take time to manifest in the physical world. Our newly anointed shepherd returns to his flock, but everything has changed and nothing has changed. The sheep still need tending. The daily routines still need completing. The ordinary responsibilities still demand attention. But now there's something else, a sense of purpose, a awareness of destiny, a quiet confidence that wasn't there before. This is where most people get confused about how greatness actually develops. They expect the dramatic moment of calling to be followed immediately by dramatic changes in circumstances. But that's not how it works. The calling comes first, then comes the continuing preparation. The anointing happens in private, then comes the public proving. Days pass, weeks pass. Our shepherd continues his routine, but with a new awareness pulsing beneath the surface. He doesn't know when or how, but he knows that something bigger is coming, something that will require everything he's been building during these years in the fields, every skill, every character trait, every moment of faithfulness. And then the call comes. Not the call to anointing this time, but the call to service. The king needs a musician, someone skilled with the harp, someone who can bring peace to a troubled soul through the power of melody and harmony. It seems like such a small thing, such a minor role, but nothing is minor when you're walking in destiny. Watch what happens when our shepherd enters the royal court for the first time. He's still just a young man with dust on his sandals and calluses on his hands. He doesn't belong in this world of luxury and power and political intrigue, but he brings something this world desperately needs. He brings the peace that comes from years of communion with the divine under starlit skies. This is another crucial lesson in our journey together. Often, the path to our ultimate purpose leads through seasons of serving others' visions and dreams. Our shepherd doesn't go directly from the fields to the throne. He goes from the fields to the court, from the court to service, from service to testing, and only then to the destiny that's been waiting for him all along. Every note he plays on that harp is preparation. Every evening spent soothing the troubled king's spirit is training for the day when he'll need to bring peace to an entire nation. Every moment of faithful service in someone else's house is building the character he'll need to manage his own kingdom. But the most important thing happening during this season isn't the music, it's the observation. Our shepherd is learning how power works, how decisions get made, how people respond to authority, how kingdoms rise and fall. He's getting a masterclass in leadership from the inside, watching both the successes and failures of the man he's been called to serve. The irony is beautiful and profound. The future king is learning kingship by serving the current king. The one who will replace is being trained by the one he'll replace, and neither of them fully understands what's happening. They just know that somehow this arrangement works. The music brings peace, and peace brings clarity, and clarity brings hope to a situation that seemed hopeless. This season of service teaches our shepherd something invaluable about true leadership. It's not about the title or the position or the external trappings of power. It's about the ability to bring something valuable to every situation you enter. Whether you're in the fields with sheep or in the palace with kings, the question remains the same. What can you contribute that makes things better? Months pass in this pattern, days of service, evenings of music, nights of rest, and preparation for whatever tomorrow might bring. Our shepherd is growing stronger, wiser, more confident, but he's also remaining humble, teachable, faithful in the small things that nobody else notices. And then something shifts in the atmosphere. Tension begins to build on the borders of the kingdom. Enemies are gathering, threats are multiplying. The peaceful season of preparation is drawing to a close, and the season of testing is about to begin. But this time, the test won't be private or personal. This time, the whole world will be watching. This is where our journey together reaches its first major crescendo. Everything we've witnessed so far, every moment of faithful service, every skill developed in obscurity, every character trait forged in the quiet places, is about to be put to the ultimate test. The shepherd boy who became the court musician is about to become something else entirely. But before that transformation happens, before the moment that will define him for all eternity, there's one more crucial scene we need to witness together. One more glimpse into who's about the heart of someone to step onto the stage of history and change the world forever. The evening light filters through the palace windows as our shepherd puts away his harp and prepares for what he believes will be just another ordinary night. But tomorrow isn't ordinary. Tomorrow, everything changes. Tomorrow, the preparation ends and the legend begins. The morning arrives with an urgency that cuts through the usual peaceful rhythm of palace life. Messengers burst through the gates with news that sends shockwaves through every corridor and chamber. The enemy has made their move, not just a skirmish on the border or a minor territorial dispute, but a full declaration of war that threatens the very existence of the kingdom. But this isn't just any ordinary military conflict. This is something far more sinister, far more calculated to enter the hearts of and strike fear entire nation. The enemy has brought with them a weapon of psychological warfare, so powerful that seasoned warriors tremble at the mere mention of it. They've brought a champion, a giant of a man whose very presence on the battlefield turns brave soldiers into frightened children. Picture the scene unfolding in the great hall of the palace. Military commanders huddle around maps, their faces etched with concern and uncertainty. Scouts deliver reports that grow more troubling with each passing hour. The giant stands nearly 10 feet tall, covered in armor that weighs more than most men can even lift. His voice carries across the valley like thunder, hurling insults and challenges that echo off the mountainsides. But here's what makes this situation truly terrifying for everyone involved. This isn't just about military might or strategic advantage. This has become a battle for the very soul of the nation. The giant isn't just challenging their army, he's challenging their faith, their identity, their belief in everything they hold sacred. Day after day, he stands in that valley and mocks everything they consider holy and true. Our shepherd, still serving faithfully in his role as court musician, watches the transformation that fear brings to the palace. He sees how grown men, seasoned warriors who faced death countless times, seem to shrink when the giant's name is mentioned. He witnesses the way hope drains from faces that once carried confidence and strength. This is his first real glimpse into how quickly circumstances can change, how rapidly confidence can turn to terror. The psychological warfare is devastatingly effective. For 40 days, the giant appears at the same time each morning and evening, issuing the same challenge. Send out your champion. Let us settle this with single combat. Winner takes all. But nobody steps forward. Nobody accepts the challenge. The entire army sits paralyzed while their enemy controls the narrative and dictates the terms. During this time, our shepherd receives an unexpected assignment. His father needs supplies delivered to his older brothers who are serving with the army. It seems like such a mundane task, such a routine family obligation. Take some food, check on the boys, bring back news of how they're doing. Nobody, least of all our shepherd, suspects that this simple errand will become the pivot point of history. The journey to the battlefield gives our shepherd time to think, time to process what's happening to his nation and his people. As he travels the dusty roads with his supplies, he can feel the tension in the air. Villages are quieter than usual. People move with nervous energy. Conversations stop when strangers approach. The entire kingdom is holding its breath, waiting to see how this confrontation will resolve. When he finally arrives at the military camp, the GR scene that is him is both fascinating and heartbreaking. Here are thousands of trained soldiers, men who've dedicated their lives to protecting their homeland, and they're trapped in a stalemate that none of their training prepared them for. They know how to fight armies, but they don't know how to face this kind of psychological terror. Our shepherd moves through the camp, delivering his supplies and greeting his brothers. But something about the atmosphere doesn't sit right with him. There's a resignation here, a sense of defeat that hasn't even happened yet. These men have already lost the battle in their minds before a single sword has been drawn in actual combat. Then comes the moment that changes everything. The giant appears for his daily ritual of mockery and challenge. Our shepherd hears the voice that has been terrorizing an entire nation, and his reaction is completely different from everyone else's. Where others hear intimidation, he hears opportunity. Where others see an insurmountable obstacle, he sees a problem that needs solving. This is where we witness something profound about the nature of perspective. Two people can look at exactly the same situation and see completely different realities. The soldiers see a giant who's too big to fight. Our shepherd sees a target that's too big to miss. The army sees certain defeat. He sees certain victory. What makes the difference? Not experience, not training, not equipment. The difference is in the lens through which they view the challenge. Watch what happens when our shepherd starts asking questions, simple questions that nobody else seems to be asking. What exactly is the reward for defeating this giant? Why is everyone so afraid? What makes this situation any different from the wild beasts he's faced while protecting his sheep? His brothers try to silence him, embarrassed by his apparent naivety. But his questions reveal something important. Sometimes fresh eyes see solutions that experienced eyes miss. The more our shepherd learns about the situation, the more convinced he becomes that everyone is approaching this wrong. They're treating it as a military problem when it's actually a faith problem. They're focusing on the size of the giant when they should be focusing on the size of their cause. They're calculating human odds when they should be considering divine possibilities. Word of the young shepherd's questions reaches the ears of the king himself. In any other situation, a shepherd boy questioning military strategy would be dismissed or even punished. But these aren't ordinary circumstances. When conventional wisdom has failed completely, sometimes wisdom comes from the most unconventional sources. The meeting between our shepherd and the king is one of those moments that reveals character on both sides. Here's a monarch who's built his reputation on strength and decisive action, now facing a crisis that has left him powerless. And here's a young man with no military credentials or political position, calmly suggesting that he can solve the problem that has stumped the entire military establishment. What follows is a conversation that strips away all pretense and gets to the heart of what this confrontation is really about. It's not about military tactics or superior weapons. It's about whether they believe in something greater than what they can see with their eyes. It's about whether their faith is strong enough to overcome their fear. It's about whether one person's courage can ignite hope in an entire nation. The king's initial response is exactly what you'd expect: skepticism, concern for the young man's safety, practical objections about experience and equipment. But something about our shepherd's quiet confidence begins to chip away at the wall of doubt. When he describes facing lions and bears while protecting his flock, he's not boasting. He's simply stating facts about what happens when you trust in something bigger than yourself. The offer of armor and weapons reveals something beautiful about the difference between human strength and divine empowerment. The king wants to equip our shepherd with the best military technology available, but the tools that work for others don't necessarily work for everyone. Sometimes the greatest strength comes from using what you already know rather than trying to master what others have mastered. This moment teaches us something crucial about authenticity in the face of challenge. There's always pressure to become someone else when big opportunities arise, to adopt other people's methods, to use other people's tools, to follow other people's strategies. But breakthrough often comes from staying true to who you are and how you've been prepared, even when that seems inadequate to everyone else. Our shepherd's decision to face the giant with just his sling and stones seems foolish to everyone watching. Military experts shake their heads in disbelief. His own family questions his judgment. Even his supporters wonder if courage has crossed the line into recklessness. But he understands something they don't. He's not trusting in weapons or armor or human strength. He's trusting in the same power that helped him protect sheep from predators. The walk from the camp to the battlefield must have felt like the longest journey of his young life. Every step carries the weight of a nation's hopes and fears. Behind him, thousands of soldiers watch in stunned silence. Across the valley, enemy forces gather to witness what they assume will be a quick and decisive victory for their champion. But here's what strikes me most about this moment. Our shepherd doesn't walk like someone going to his death. He doesn't move with the hesitation of someone who's uncertain about the outcome. He walks with the steady confidence of someone who's done this before, just on a different scale. The principles that worked in the fields will work on the battlefield. The faith that sustained him in private will sustain him in public. The giant's reaction to seeing his opponent is exactly what you'd expect: rage, insult, mockery. How dare they send a boy to face a warrior? It's an insult to his reputation and an affront to his dignity. But his words reveal something important. He's fighting for personal glory and national pride. Our shepherd is fighting for something much deeper and more powerful. The exchange of words before the battle is crucial because it clarifies what this confrontation is really about. The giant boasts about his strength, his experience, his weapons, his reputation. Our shepherd speaks about justice, divine purpose, and the power that comes from fighting for something greater than yourself. Two completely different worldviews are about to collide, and only one can prevail. What happens next unfolds in moments, but its impact will last for millennia. The giant charges with all the fury and power that has terrorized a nation. Our shepherd reaches for his sling with the same calm motion he's used thousands of times to protect his sheep. The stone flies with perfect accuracy toward the one spot where the giant's massive armor offers no protection. The silence that follows the giant's fall is deafening. For a moment, nobody moves, nobody speaks, nobody seems to breathe. The impossible has happened. The unthinkable has become reality. The shepherd boy has defeated the giant, and in doing so, has transformed not just the outcome of a battle, but the trajectory of history itself. But here's what makes this victory truly remarkable. It's not just about one moment of courage or one perfect shot. It's about how years of faithful preparation in obscurity suddenly converge into one shining moment of public triumph. Every skill learned while tending sheep, every moment of trust developed during lonely nights under the stars, every small act of courage in the face of predators, all of it culminates in this instant that changes everything. The reaction from both armies tells the whole story. The enemy forces, who had seemed so confident and intimidating, suddenly flee in terror. The soldiers who had been paralyzed with fear just moments before now surge forward with renewed courage and purpose. The giant's fall has become the catalyst for a complete reversal of fortune. Our shepherd stands over the fallen giant, but he's not the same person who walked onto that battlefield just moments ago. Externally, he looks the same dusty sandals, same simple clothes, same youthful face. But something fundamental has shifted. The boy who entered this confrontation as an unknown shepherd leaves it as a national hero. The transition from private preparation to public recognition is complete. This is the moment when everything we've been building toward reaches its crescendo. Years of faithful service in small things have prepared him for faithful service in great things. Seasons of private character development have equipped him for public leadership responsibilities. The foundation, laid in obscurity, now supports achievements that the whole world will celebrate. But even as we celebrate this incredible victory, we need to understand that this is not the end of the story. This is actually just the beginning. What happens when the cheering stops? What comes after the moment of triumph? How does someone handle the transition from unknown to famous, from shepherd to hero, from private citizen to public figure? The victory over the giant establishes our shepherd as someone special, but it also creates new challenges and new expectations. Success brings its own pressures and temptations. Fame opens doors, but also creates new enemies. Achievement unlocks opportunities, but also demands greater responsibility. As the dust settles on the battlefield and the celebrations begin, our shepherd faces a completely new set of challenges. How do you stay grounded when everyone wants to lift you up? How do you remain humble when everyone is praising your greatness? How do you maintain the character that brought you success when success itself threatens to change your character? These are the questions that will define the next chapter of our journey together. because what we've witnessed so far is just the foundation. The real test isn't whether you can rise to meet one great challenge. The real test is whether you can sustain greatness over time, through multiple seasons of testing, through the inevitable ups and downs that come with a life lived in the spotlight. The shepherd who defeated the giant is about to discover that conquering external enemies is often easier than conquering internal challenges. The courage that faces down a physical threat will need to be matched by the wisdom to navigate political intrigue, the integrity to handle power responsibly, and the faith to stay connected to the source of strength that made victory possible in the first place. As we prepare for the next phase of this incredible journey, remember what we've learned so far. Greatness isn't born in the moment of triumph, it's forged in the years of preparation that nobody sees. Victory isn't about having advantages over your opponents. It's about having faith in something greater than yourself. And transformation isn't about becoming someone completely different. It's about becoming more fully who you were always meant to be. The giant has fallen, but the story is far from over. In fact, in many ways, it's just beginning. What comes next will test everything our shepherd has learned and everything he believes about leadership, character, and staying true to your calling when the whole world is watching. Walking with David changes you, doesn't it? We've witnessed how faithfulness in the fields prepared him for triumph on the battlefield, how private character development enabled public leadership, and how unwavering faith transformed impossible odds into inevitable victory. His story reminds us that greatness isn't about starting with advantages, it's about what you build during the seasons nobody notices. Right now, you're in your own fields, facing your own giants, writing your own story of preparation and purpose. The question isn't whether your moment will come. The question is, when it arrives, will you be ready?